Africa is filled with warriors whose names stand tall in the pages of history. But there are also heroes whose voices were softened by time, whose sacrifices were buried under the weight of bigger, louder stories. Today, we uncover one of them, a woman who stood up to a brutal colonial system, a mother who turned prisons into classrooms, a revolutionary who refused to bow even when beaten, humiliated, and thrown in chains. This is the story of Ruth Chinamano, Zimbabwe's fearless mother of resistance. Ruth Nyombolo. Chinamano was born on the 16th of February 1925 in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. From a young age, she was bold, outspoken, and unafraid to challenge injustice. She attended Teacher Training College, not because she only wanted to teach, but because education was her weapon. In the 1940s, she moved to Zimbabwe, then Southern Rhodesia, where she met her future husband, Josiah Chinamano, a rising political activist. Together, they formed a partnership that would become one of the strongest forces in Zimbabwe's liberation struggle. But Ruth was never just a wife. She was a fighter in her own right. Colonial Rhodesia was a land where African voices were silenced, where movements were controlled, where speaking against the government could cost your life. But Ruth Chinamano refused to be silent. She joined nationalist politics, first in SRANC, then ZAPU, working alongside heroes like Joshua Nkomo. She mobilized communities, taught women about their political power, and spoke boldly at rallies. She inspired the oppressed with a simple belief: courage is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to accept injustice. Her voice grew louder, her influence grew stronger, and so did the danger. In 1964, the Rhodesian government launched a massive crackdown on African nationalists. Ruth Chinamano was arrested. She was thrown into Gonakudzingwa detention camp, a remote and harsh prison near the Mozambique border. This camp held some of the fiercest fighters in Zimbabwe's liberation, including her husband. Many expected her to break. Instead, she became even stronger. Inside the camp, Ruth turned prison life into a revolution. She taught women to read. She taught politics. She taught courage. To the young female detainees, she became Amai Chinamano, Mother Chinamano. But years behind bars did not weaken her spirit. She famously said, "You can imprison my body, but not my will." She spent over a decade under detention, restriction, and surveillance. Outside prison, women were joining the liberation struggle in massive numbers as fighters, mobilizers, spies, nurses, and supporters. And Ruth Chinamano became the symbol of female courage. She encouraged women not just to support the struggle, but to be part of the struggle. She told them, "You are not too small, not too weak, and not too silent to change history." Her firm voice, her discipline, and her strength inspired countless young women who later joined ZIPRA, ZANLA, and other liberation efforts. Even in detention, colonial officers feared the influence she held, because Ruth Chinamano wasn't just a prisoner. She was a movement. When Zimbabwe finally gained its independence in 1980, the world celebrated the end of a long and brutal struggle, and Ruth Chinamano was right there at the heart of it. She became a member of parliament, representing her people with the same fire she carried in the streets and in the cells of Rhodesian prisons. In a new Zimbabwe, she championed women's rights education, equality, unity between Zimbabweans, protection of young girls. To her, independence was not just a moment. it was a responsibility. She worked tirelessly to ensure that the sacrifices made during the Liberation War were not forgotten. Ruth Chinamano passed away on the 2nd of January 2005, but her legacy continues to breathe through Zimbabwe's political and social landscape. She was declared a national hero, a title she earned through sweat, courage, and unshakable belief in justice. Her story is a reminder that freedom is never free, and heroes are not always the ones celebrated in the spotlight. Some are women who spoke truth when the world tried to silence them. Women like Ruth Chinamano. Ruth Chinamano's life teaches us that bravery has no gender, resistance has no boundary, and leadership has no uniform. If her story moved you, inspired you, or taught you something new, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear the story of an African mother of liberation.